Hey guys, in this lesson we would go over the third and the last form of quadratic relations, and that is factored form. The general representation of factored form of quadratic equation is y equal to a x minus r x minus s. Now we know the vertex form of quadratic equation is y equal to ax minus h square plus k, and this vertex form gives us the vertex of the parabola that is represented by hk. Another thing we get from the vertex form is the axis of symmetry, that is x equal to the h value. Similarly, factored form also gives us few things that we can get just by looking at the equation. The first thing is the x-intercepts. X-intercepts are also called zeros of the graph or zeros of the parabola. Another name is called roots of the parabola. So if this is the parabola, these 2 points where the graph meets the x-axis is called the x-intercepts or roots or zeros of the parabola. As with the vertex form of parabolic equation or quadratic equation, vertex is represented with hk. So as from the factored form, x-intercepts are represented by r and s, and those are these values. We can get few more things from the factored form, and the next thing that we can get is the vertex from this factored form. Directly we cannot read the vertex, however we can get the vertex from this factored form indirectly. The steps for getting vertex we would go over in one of the examples that we would take up after this. And if we are able to get vertex from the factored form, then we can get axis of symmetry as well from the factored form. So these are 3 things that we can get from the factored form of a quadratic relation. Let's understand a factored form using an example. Let's say we are given an equation y equal to x minus 6, x minus 2. Whenever we have the equation in the form of 2 brackets, that means it's factored form. We can match it with the general factored form of equation, and that is ax minus r x minus s. A is not here means a is 1. So looking at the equation, we know a value is 1, r value is 6, and s value is 2. We can use this information to make a graph out of this equation. We know r and s are going to be the zeros or the x-intercepts or the roots of this factored form of equation. So r is 6, s is 2. We can mark the roots 2 and 6. Now in order to complete the graph, we need to know the vertex of the parabola. And how do we get vertex using these values is, always remember, because the parabola is symmetrical, so vertex is going to be right in between the 2 x-intercepts. So we would find out the median of 2 and 6 by adding them up and dividing by 2. We get 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 4 is the middle value. Now what is this 4 going to represent? Is the equation of axis of symmetry. So always remember, axis of symmetry is r plus s divided by 2. In this particular example, it is 4. And we know from here axis of symmetry is also x equal to h. So that means 4 is going to be the h value. Now we would be using this h value to find out the k value. And how do we do that? Is we would take the original equation given to us and substitute this h value of 4 as x in the equation and solve for y value. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. We get negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. So y value is 4. This y value that we have obtained by putting in the x value as h or axis of symmetry. So this y value is called the k value as well. Therefore we have k as negative 4. Now we have h and we have k. That means we have the vertex as 4, negative 4. Because vertex is represented with hk. So if we extend the y-axis, then 4, negative 4 is the point going to be here. And all we have to do is just connect these 3 points to complete the parabola like this. Here the vertex is 4, negative 4. And the zeros are 2, 6. If you want to write on the complete point for the zeros, it is going to be 2, 0. Because at zeros, the y value is 0. And this point is going to be 6, 0. And we see when we are given the factored form of quadratic equation, we can get the zeros in the form of r and s. Axis of symmetry, that is calculated using the average of R and S. So we add R and S and divide it by 2 to get the axis of symmetry. We sub in the axis of symmetry in the equation as X and solve for Y. That gives us the K value, or the maxima or the minima point of the vertex. So we have the complete coordinates of the vertex that we can use to mark the point. Using these 3 points, we can complete the parabola. And since A is positive, graph opens upwards. So all the conditions and all the properties are met for the parabola if the numbers are used properly. Now, one thing we have to remember here is, if we're given the equation as y equal to 2x plus 3x plus 7, we know A value is 2. R value is going to be always opposite the sign given in the bracket, because the general equation for factored form is x minus r and x minus s. So whenever we are picking the r value, it has to be opposite sign. So r is going to be -3 and s is also opposite sign, and that is -7. Now the axis of symmetry is going to be -3 plus -7 divided by 2. That would give us -10 divided by 2, which is -5. And this is going to be the h value for the vertex. To find out the k value, we would use the equation y is equal to 2. In place of x, we would sub in this -5 in both the brackets. And this is what we would get. 2 times -2 times 2 is a -8. That is the value of y, or that is the value of k. So the vertex we would get is hk. That is equal to -5, -8. Now we would be using these 3 things, r, s, and the vertex, to complete the graph. The r value we would mark is at -3. S is -7, the vertex is -5, -8, so we would go up till -8 here, and the point is going to be here. We would connect these 3 points to get the parabola, and this is how the parabola is going to look like for this particular equation. So if the question wants us to label the vertex, this is the vertex, and if the question wants us to label the x-intercepts, these 2 are the x-intercepts. And this is how we graph the factored form of quadratic relations, as well as we interpret the x-intercepts and the vertex from the factored form.